The beginning of the Tuskegee Area Chamber of Commerce was 50 years ago, June 1971. Recognizing this milestone, the organization has coordinated a series of intergenerational conversations where history and wisdom are passed like a baton in a relay race from one generation to the next.
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Ford, and I am what I call born and bred in Tuskegee, Alabama. I'm a John Andrew baby, which I'm really proud to say I was born right here in the pride of the swift-growing South. And I went to Booker T. Washington High School, grew up around the lake. I don't think it gets more Tuskegee than that, except for I went to Morehouse undergraduate, so I think they don't hold that against me. But fortunately, I was able, when I got out of college, to go on and go to law school, and I didn't waste any time coming back down here to practice law and open my own law firm. So right now, I am a citizen of Tuskegee, proud, born and bred son of Tuskegee, happy to be an African-American lawyer fighting the good fight down here in the South. But today, I am more proud to be sitting here interviewing the man next to me, who is one of the pioneers of our historical community and happens to be, which I'm very proud to say, my father, Johnny Ford. So we are here to talk about business and the Chamber's effect in the Tuskegee community over the years, and we are honoring the fact that the Chamber of Commerce has been around for 50 years. And I think the amazing part, when they told me that, I thought, I was like, wow, is my father that old, man?
And Chamber's still alive.
Yeah.
Both of us are still alive.
Alive and kicking, man. In better shape and more energy than I have, man. But I am honored to be sitting here next to you to conduct this interview and try to capture, and be able to pick your brain. We have some heavy hitters around here, and we love to know where we come from and how to get where we need to go. So, I want to start off and ask, from the beginning, what was your involvement with the Chamber of Commerce here in Macon County?
Well, we had at one point a white Chamber of Commerce, and at one point we had a black Chamber of Commerce because, in addition to being Tuskegee, Alabama, we have Tuskegee Institute, Alabama. And Tuskegee Institute, Alabama was an African-American, self-sustaining, economic, empowered community itself. And so they had a Chamber of Commerce made up of the African-American community. Well, to make a long story short, in the early 70s, neither was still alive. Both had gone out of business. The black chamber was gone, the white chamber was gone. So we decided that what we needed was a Chamber of Commerce that represented everyone, the black and white community, the total Tuskegee community, and not just Tuskegee, but the Tuskegee Area Chamber of Commerce. And so I'll never forget contacting the state office of the State Chamber of Commerce, contacting the director and said, we want to organize a chamber right here in Tuskegee, Alabama. And so we set up a day. At that time, I was working in New Orleans, driving back and forth every weekend. And so the meeting occurred in the middle of the week at the City Bank Tuskegee, which is now the Tuskegee History Center upstairs. But the thing about it, it occurred in the middle of the week, so it meant that I had to drive from New Orleans, and that was before the interstate was completed. So I had to take that ride along the coast. Drove from Tuskegee. We had the organizational meeting, myself and Ron Williams, and we had other guys like George Clay and Major Holland and Charlie Hardy and Gene Ingram. I could name a number of those guys. But at any rate, we organized a meeting. I organized a meeting because that's what I did at that time. I was an organizer. Before becoming mayor, I was the state supervisor of the U.S. Department of Justice Community Relations Service. And one of the things we did was organize economic development organizations in cities across Alabama, particularly in the Black Belt area, economic development organizations. And so I knew that Tuskegee needed a chamber of commerce that could be the voice of the business community at large. And so I drove from New Orleans. We had our meeting for about 2 hours, got in my car, drove back to New Orleans in the same night, and got up the next morning and went to work for the mayor of New Orleans, Moon Laundry at that time. At that time I was a Model Cities consultant.
So this was what, 1970? Is that what it was?
Yeah, this was actually 1971. Okay, the summer of 1971. Later that year, I became the state supervisor of the U.S. Department of Justice Community Relations Service in August of '71, and we continued our community organizing activities across the state of Alabama.
So you'd have been pregnant with John then, right?
Yeah.
He was born in October '71.
That's right.
Yeah.
October 27th.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
1971.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Because we were married on the 13th, on the 28th in
Just the anniversary.
1970. Right. So a little family history, if you don't mind.
So hey, just go back now. Just say those names. He said Charlie Hardy, George Clay. Who else?
Major Holland,
Okay.
Gene Ingram, Ron Williams. Ronald Williams, who became mayor as well, was my assistant. He helped me. Ron.
He's a right-hand man, right?
Yeah, he was right and left-hand man, and he always did the details, notified everyone. But I was the organizer because that's what I did at that time. And you know me, I like to organize.
Yes, that's your thing, man.
Down through the years, the World Conference, the Conference of Black Mayors, etc. But a Chamber of Commerce, so that we could have a voice for Tuskegee. Particular Chamber of Commerce that could promote tourism. A Chamber of Commerce that could promote businesses. A Chamber of Commerce that promoted Shop Tuskegee First. I remember that was on the first thing. A Chamber of Commerce that would promote an annual Christmas parade at Christmas season, shopping in Tuskegee. A Chamber of Commerce that would really promote and make sure the community was ready for homecoming, which was our biggest economic weekend of the year. You know, more people came to Tuskegee during homecoming. Christmas was our biggest shopping time of the year. And then the summertime, well, the other time was when kids got out of school and went back to school, all those. But a Chamber of Commerce that could be a united voice for the business community, and a Chamber of Commerce that could have some impact with the local government. Actually, I was organizing all of this, but I was laying the foundation to run for mayor.
Who was the mayor then? Was it Kiva?
C.M. Kiva, who was a businessman, and his son, incidentally, Larry Kiva, was one of our, who was a younger Kiva, who was about our age, and he was also active in the chamber as well.
He ran the car dealership, right?
Yeah. What we had was a group of young black emerging African American leaders, and we also had a group of young white emerging business leaders, like Jeff Gregg at the Cleaners.
Greg Cleaners, I remember.
Yeah, Brownie Sides, who was the son of the Sides Automobile Motors. Larry Kiva, the son of Kivas, and I could go on and on. Because what had happened was we had a lot of white flight from Tuskegee. And because of the economic boycott, you know the history of C.G. Gomigan and others who led an economic boycott because Tuskegee white leadership at that time gerrymandered the city limits, put all the blacks out of the city limits so they could not vote. And so Montgomery had a bus boycott in 1955. In Tuskegee, we had an economic boycott.
Lightfoot versus Chameleon, right?
Yeah, exactly. You got that case.
Octagon of this crazy size.
Yeah.
Well, okay, and I want to
Go ahead.
just lead to the next thing. So I imagine, because Tuskegee's changed a lot over the last 50 and 60 years.
Right.
So what were some of the greatest challenges for implementing the chamber, putting the chamber to work, and making it benefit the communities that y'all were aiming at? What were the greatest challenges you really had making that happen?
Well, the greatest challenge was, but also our greatest opportunity was having an organization that brought together emerging black and white leaders together who were in business. The Chamber became the organization in Tuskegee. It was doing things. They were having ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings and promoting Shop Tuskegee and promoting festivals and parades. The Chamber was that live organization that was concentrating on people shopping and keeping money in Tuskegee. It was promoting tourism. As you know, Mr. Attorney, per capita we have more history probably than any other town. The home of Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver, the birthplace of Miss Rosa Parks, birthplace of Osceola, home of the Commodores and Lionel Richie, the flying fighting Tuskegee Airmen. I could go on and on.
Simple study.
The first African American sheriff, Lucius Amerson, the first two state legislators, Tom Breed and Attorney Fred Gray. And so we just had so much history here. Home of Tuskegee University, the home of the VA hospital, and of course all of that we had going for us because we were a very historic antebellum town steeped in antebellum history, as well as rich African American history and rich Native American history, Osceola. So a Chamber of Commerce that promoted all of that. So the greatest challenge was, how do you bring, because all around us was also the civil rights struggle was still ongoing. In 1966, Sammy Young, my boyhood friend, had been shot down. That of course set us back in terms of race relations once again. So our biggest challenge was maintaining a level of equality and justice and camaraderie between the races at that time. To become like Atlanta, too busy to hate. You know what I mean? Keeping so involved, because we, as I said, had all of these things going on, and the Chamber was right in the midst of it. So the greatest challenge was having an active program for the Chamber, maintaining racial harmony, if you will, and racial pride. We were proud of the history of our whites, as proud of the history of our African American and the Native American. So our greatest challenge was bringing everyone together. And the other thing is, the greatest challenge I think of all was, prior to that we had three basic communities. We had the Tuskegee community, which was basically the white-run community. Then we had the Tuskegee Institute community. And then we had the VA community. Each one of those communities was self-sufficient. I mean, our greatest challenge was, as a chamber, to promote all three and encourage all three of them to work together. When I became mayor, that was my goal, to bring the city, the university, and the VA hospital into one community. For example, the VA had its own police, the university had its own police department, university had its own water system, its own electrical system. Tuskegee Institute had its own electrical system, water system. So when we became mayor, our goal was to try to bring all of those under one. And the Chamber of Commerce, more so than any other organization. Oh, incidentally, prior to the Chamber of Commerce, we had an organization called the Committee for a Greater Tuskegee. It was held on campus where leaders from the black and white community were brought together, and they talked about racial relations. The Committee for a Greater Tuskegee was sort of like a prelude to the Chamber of Commerce. But our greatest challenge was keeping harmony and promoting the business community, because people were beginning to shop outside of Tuskegee. We wanted to attract business here and give people a business community where they could buy and find what they needed to buy here in Tuskegee.
So I imagine
Yeah.
this integration of these three communities and getting the community work together, especially in such a pivotal time when you're coming out of the civil rights movement.
Yep.
There's still a lot of racial tension, which I mean still exists today. But was there a great deal of pushback from some? And what did you do to overcome that? And
Yeah.
How do you cross those bridges?
Well, we had the old heads, all right? We had the old heads only because we were young emerging leaders now. But we had those seniors on both the white side and the black side who obviously were resistant. You know, they just, you know, they would have to die out. But we just overcame it because we were so positive. We were doing things, you know, like
kindness, I guess.
Yeah, everything, and we were doing things, you know, just like I became the first black Santa Claus in Tuskegee. We had the first Christmas parade, homecoming, you know.
Is there a picture of you dressed up as Santa Claus?
Yeah, Santa Claus with loafers on, you know.
Did you have cyclones?
But how do we overcame it? We just kept emerging, just like you are an emerging leader, just all you guys like Jared Clay and Holland and Chris Lee and who else is in your crowd? All of you all.
George, Bulls, and
yeah. So and Tiffany,
Yeah.
all of you all of the new emerging. That's where we were when we organized the chamber, and we even organized a JC, a Junior Chamber of Commerce. We elected Cliff Johnson president of the Chamber of Commerce because he was the first
Cadillac
dealer in the United States. Yeah, been covered in Jet magazine and everywhere. So Cliff was our high-profile chamber, and then people like George Clay was just going into business for the first time, radio station and insurance. Charlie Hardy sold me my first insurance policy, $25,000 life insurance. That's stuff, you know. So everybody was just emerging.
So okay, yeah. Now we're
Go ahead.
50 years removed.
Right.
And so what do you think, I mean, what's your hope going forward for these businesses in the community now that exist? Where do you want to see them go, and what do you want to see business-wise happen in Tuskegee?
We want everybody, in the words of Booker T. Washington, to cast down their buckets where they are, right here. Shop Tuskegee first. Invest Tuskegee first. Live Tuskegee first. We still have so many students who live in Auburn. We have many professors and professional people at the VA hospital, and even people who work for the city and county who live elsewhere. So Tuskegee first is our goal, and the Chamber of Commerce is the best organization to do that. That's why I'm promoting entering into once again an MOU between the Chamber and the City of Tuskegee, where the Chamber can become the city's voice for business and economic concerns. Joe Turnham does a great job with the Economic Development Authority, but we need a voice for the commercial part of Tuskegee, and the Chamber can do that.
What's an MOU?
You know, a memorandum of understanding between the city and the Chamber of Commerce, where we have to have a contract, an MOU, because we can't just pay dues to the chamber. Cities can't do that anymore. They have to enter into a contract where the chamber makes a memorandum to carry out certain duties, such as promote tourism, promote shopping, promote.
So that the chamber kind of push the agenda
exactly
for the city.
Because the city has an economic development agenda, right?
Yes.
A commercial development agenda, a downtown redevelopment agenda. Mm-hmm. What better organization than the chamber
to do it?
To engage them to be our voice for that.
Well, I would like to know, how do we, as a city, we're African American city now in the state of Alabama. How do we get businesses, or how do you think that we get businesses to relocate here, to come here, to employ people?
We're the best city in America to relocate. And that's why we're just promoting. We have the industrial park, we have that industrial site out there on the railroad, the CSX site. Mm-hmm. We have all of those things going for us. We have the industrial park. So we are the best place to locate. We just have got to promote that. Now, state industrial developers have promoted other areas. And essentially what has happened, they've developed Montgomery and they've jumped over Tuskegee to Auburn and Opelika. So what we're saying now that we have the interstate, we got to promote the fact that the interstate runs abut Tuskegee. It used to be the railroad. We still have the railroad for cargo and freight. So what we must do is continue to promote Tuskegee, make sure that our web page is up to date, and make sure we're tied into the Alabama Development Office. And as they promote Alabama, make sure that Tuskegee is promoted in that process. Tuskegee has a free trade zone. Probably Tuskegee and Pritchard are the only two that have that in the state, wherein foreign investors can ship and do business here without the tariffs, because we have free trade zones. But we must promote ourselves. The city government and the chamber must join forces and have a unified voice, just as we were when we were trying to get the T100. The mayor and the chamber and business leaders, the university, county, city, everybody work together. So what we must do to attract industry is promote what we have to offer to industry. We must offer land, we must have tax abatement, we must have reasonable utilities, we must have a workforce, a trainable workforce. So all of those things are what we must do to attract business.
You know, it's sad and unfortunately.
That's
but
okay.
We have to realize, because I mean, I think that's what you're saying, is that they're not going to give us anything. And if we don't do it ourselves, it's not going to happen around here.
Right.
And I think, how do we grab the bull by the horns? I mean, again, I know you've been doing city government so long. And I mean, are there ways that advantages that we can do by giving away land, by cutting utility rates for incoming businesses?
Well, everybody does it, Mr. Attorney. Everybody does it. Montgomery, the state of Alabama, the kind of incentives. That's why sometimes I get impatient. Let's put it this way. I used to get angry. I don't do that anymore. But sometimes it's hard for me to understand why we have to discuss giving incentives for people to invest in the community. Like when we got Pastor Winston to come here at the shopping center, we gave him tax break, okay? That's part of it. I was in the legislature when we gave the incentives to attract the Mercedes, the Honda, and the Hyundai. All of those major industries we had to give incentive. Like, for example, at Shorter, you know the
Hyundai plant or whatever.
The Hala plant, yes, right? Yeah, yeah. You know how we got that plant? Was I looked at South Koreans in the eye, because at that time I was in the Republican Party, so I had everything that I needed to make that kind of commitment. I looked at South Koreans in the office. I said, listen, you can talk about locating a plant in some of these other towns, but as a legislator, I led the fight to get the incentives that you needed to bring the Hyundai plant to Alabama. As a matter of fact, I passed a resolution in the legislature commending the mayor of Montgomery. What was the previous mayor's name?
Emory Farmer.
No, not Emory.
Bobby Bryant.
No, not Bobby. The last one. See, I can't even think of it. But anyway, Todd Strange was in charge of development for the state of Alabama, and I honored him and recognized his work on the state level. You know, I did a lot to help bring the Hyundai plant as a legislator, because I understood that. But I said to him, I got to have one of these industries. I mean, some of these other counties can debate it, but I must have a Hyundai plant in Tuskegee. John McGowan was with me. Ron Smith, the chairman of county government, was with me. Their economic developer was with me. Harold Powell, bless his heart. I took the four of them to see the South Korean. Looked them in the eye and said, any deal any other county has given you, we will beat it. That's how I got his attention. Well, it meant we were able to give them Alabama Power Company provided the electricity, we provided the water and sewer and whatever. But we had to give them incentives to invest. Now the Hyundai plant at Shorter, of course I wanted it in Tuskegee, but they wanted to be in Charlotte, which was okay. I met with Mayor Powell and others, and that's where we agreed to put it. But the point is, we had to give incentives, and we must do that now. And my message to the council and to the county government is, let's be willing not to give away things, but it's an investment. You attract investments. It's a partnership. And Tuskegee, like you said, they're not going to give us anything. We got to do it for ourselves. So you go ahead and wrap it.
All right, now so just wrap up before we get out of here. But just in the last few minutes of this, just kind of sum up, your perspective of the last 50 years of history involving the Tuskegee Area Chamber of Commerce.
And I am
being there from beginning to right now. I guess put that in.
Well, first of all, let me be the first as a founder of the Chamber of Commerce to say that I am proud of our Chamber of Commerce, my Chamber of Commerce, our Chamber of Commerce. It has weathered the storm. 50 years of serving this community, and people like Roland Vaughn, who's an example of a white person whose roots are in this community. The Vaughn family, the lake, they gave us the lake. The Vaughn family, where my father built his first house on Vaughn property, but to now see 50 years later, A.C. Vaughn, who was his father, to see now Roland Vaughn as the president of the Chamber of Commerce, and being before him Loretta and I worked together with Cecia and John Brown as president of the Chamber. And to have a person like Karen Hopkins, who understands economic development, commercial development, as our manager of the Chamber, running the Chamber. So I'm proud of the Tuskegee Area Chamber of Commerce. I feel like, a grandfather to be able to sit back and see it and watch it work, baby. Our chamber is rolling, boy. The other day, they were down celebrating second anniversary of the meat store. The other day they were saying mucho gracias at the Mexican restaurant. We have the Chinese restaurant in town. I remember I went to China and the Chinese students say, I want you to bring back somebody to open a Chinese restaurant. But now in Tuskegee we have it all. We have it all. We have commerce, we have business. What we need is more manufacturing, and I'm convinced that as we celebrate the Chamber of Commerce 50th anniversary, I can only say that we have only just begun.